Hello and welcome back. It's puzzle time with Sudoku Sleuth, and here I am speaking with a bit of a distance from the microphone, so quick adjustment there. Just shows you how much out of practice I am. And today we're going to be playing 4 Parity 4x4s. I think that is the correct title of today's puzzle from Sir Moose, nevertheless. Sir Moose, fantastic constructor. I still remember the first puzzle he's ever created, well, at least the first puzzle I've ever played with him, where it was just this phenomenal construction using anti-knight rules. So I'm looking forward to today's puzzle for a couple of reasons. One star difficulty rating, right up my alley. 2, it's 94% rated as of the time of recording. And 3, feels like a bit of a twist in terms of variance. It's not something that I've come across where essentially it's all about parity. And it's not a standard size either. So all of that sounds confusing. Don't worry. We're going to take a quick look through the rules right now with 4 Parity 4x4s from Sir Moose. And yeah, kind of the thick red line. Yeah, I'll walk you through all of that quickly. Normal Sudoku rules do not apply. Okay. Place the digits 1 to 8 in each row and column with no repeats. Fairly obvious. So the digits 1 through to 8 once each in every row and every column. Second part. The 8x8 Sudoku is made up of 4 separate 4x4 Sudokus separated in red lines. Each 4x4 Sudoku is made up of exactly 4 of the digits 1 to 8 placed once in each row, column, and 2x2 region. Now, that's a lot of words to say what I believe is the following. This is its own Sudoku. It has 4 of the digits 1 through to 8. And they are essentially, whatever they are, let's say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, I would have to have 1, 2, 3, 4 in here, 1, 2, 3, 4 in there. But obviously I'd also have to have it in the column and in this row in this kind of 4x4 mini Sudoku grid that we're playing. Keep in mind, the larger rule of the digits 1 through to 8 also still applies. So whatever these 4 digits are from 1 to 8, they are different from the digits 1 to 8 that we're going to be placing in here. Right. Here's the other bit that really intrigued me, which is, I guess, why parity is in the name. Even digits may not be orthogonally adjacent to another even digit. So if, for example, the digit here is 2, I cannot place in either of these 2 cells. Obviously, I can't place 2 because it breaks the rules. But 4, 6, and 8, which are the other even digits between 1 through to 8, cannot be in here because they'll be orthogonally connected to the 2. And I'm kind of assuming it applies. Let me just, even digits may not be orthogonally adjacent to another. Yeah, so I'm going to assume it applies even across the red barrier. I think it makes sense because it's not restricting it to that kind of 4x4 Sudokus. Then we have a couple of other normal variants. So arrow sum, so whatever these 3 cells, 1, 2, 3, add up to, it will be 6 in here, or who knows, 1, 3, 4, it'll be 8. Digits separated by a black dot are in a 1 to 2 ratio. So if this cell is a 2, for example, this would have to be 1 or 4, so that one cell is double the other. Not all dots are given, so I don't know, a 3 and a 6 clearly in a 2 to 1 ratio here, but without a black dot is not a problem. And then last but not least, we've got, of course, the grid is partially covered by fog, and placing the correct digit will clear the surrounding fog. So if this cell happens to be 2, all of these cells which are surrounding it, I mean, these are covered, already uncovered, but they would be revealed and hopefully gives us some more clues to help us progress with the solve. Right, as always, to play along, link in the description down below for you to do so. And with that said, I'm going to restart the clock, see how I get on. Yeah. Okay, sorry, I'm just thinking, I'm looking at this arrow. And whatever this arrow is going to add up to a value that is 100% in there. And let me explain the logic as to why that is the case. So whatever these cells are, and we're going to color them actually, let's say it's blue, green, and yellow. This cell is clearly not blue, green, or yellow because none of them are zeros. They're from the digits 1 through to 8. So I can't have a sum that's on here. So it'll be, this will be the remaining cell in this in this 2 by 2. Sorry, the 4 by 4. So, these cells, remember, have 4 of the digits 1 through to 8, and they have to be in here. And these cells, because this, right, so the minimum these cells can be is 1, 2, 3, meaning the maximum this cell can be is 6, 7, 8. Now, my inclination is to say that this is the red cell, but I'm trying to understand why am I saying that? Why can't I have a repeat of one of these in here and then the arrow continues and it ends up being in one of these cells? So let's say obviously that, this ends up being a 1. Let's say these are indeed 1, 2, 3. What stops me from having a 7 in here? Parity stops me from having a 7 in here. Of course it stops me from having a 7 in here. Right. Forget the red for a second. Let's just think about parity and the orthogonally consecutive part. So whatever this parity is, if it's odd or even, let's just say it's even, these two cells have to be odd. If it is odd, these two cells have to be even. And why is that? Because I have to use the digits 1 through to 8 in the entire grid. I'm going to make up some numbers. So bear with me. I just want to think about this and play with it a bit. So let's just say that this is red and this is indeed 6, 7, and 8. I think one thing we can say for sure is because this sum is cannot be 9, we have to place digits from 1 through to 8. These three have to have a 1. Because if I don't have a 1, the minimum is 2, 3, 4. That's a 9. I can't use 9 in this grid. So that we can definitively state. And then my options are, given my ceiling is 8, is essentially 1, 2, 3 to make up 6, 1, 2, 4 to make up 7, and then 2 ways of making up 8 with 1, 2, 5 to make up 8, and then 1, 3, 4 to make up 8. Now, my intuition was that there is always going to be 2 evens and 2 odds, essentially kind of in like some kind of X. And yes, it is, because 1, 2, 3. So we've got 2 odds with 1 and 3, 2 evens with 2 and 6. And then again, 2 and 4 are even, and then 1 and 7. And then the 8, either the 2 is the even digit with the 8, or the 4 is the even digit with the 8. Kind of makes sense that if we're getting to whatever it is, an odd sum, there has to be 2 evens and an odd, and vice versa. But more importantly, of course, because whatever I end up selecting in here, so let's say I had 3 odds and an even, I'm going to end up with 3 evens and an odd in the rest of the kind of 4 by 4 Sudoku above it and to the left of it. And then there is no way for me to actually fill in these evens without them orthogonally touching in some way. So, let's say I've got 4, and then I have another even digit, 6. Whichever cell I pick, it'll be touching one of them. So every single one of these squares is made up of 2 evens and 2 odds. And therefore, these two have the same parity, and these two have the same parity. Otherwise, the evens will be touching. So we can actually color some of this grid as a result, because I know yellow cannot touch red because they're the same parity, and vice versa. And therefore, this cell, which is not yellow, not green, and cannot be red, otherwise we have a problem, has to be blue, and therefore this has to be red. And then again, this cell is not blue or red. It can be yellow. We know they can touch, but it can't be green. Now, it doesn't, whichever way you do this, it almost doesn't matter. Let's say, for the sake of argument, I think it's best illustrated with, let's say that this is the 6, and therefore that's the 2, this is the 1, 3, this is the 1, 3. So if these two are the evens, you can immediately see that can't be even, that can't be red, that would have to be odd for this to be even. And essentially that kind of X shape has to be maintained. And then same logic in here. Yes, technically I could have made that another 1, 3, but then I would have placed the 2 in here next to the 6. And then we can quickly just change that around to show that this is sort of still true. And it kind of, I'm hoping again, intuitively this is fairly obvious. If this was odd and this was odd, well, this cell here, while technically it could be odd with the 7, if I do that, I will immediately break things because that's 7, that's 2, 4, right? That 2, 4 now, I can't have the other 2, 4 in here. I'd have to have it in here and then it'd be touching. Right, so I am coloring this correctly. And therefore this cell cannot be, where am I going with this? This cell has to be the same parity as yellow and red. And then I've already placed yellow in the column, so it has to be red. And then this would mean this is yellow, this is blue, this is green, this is not red. In fact, just Sudoku says this is red, yellow, green, blue. Right, and then all of these cells are 6, 7, 8. One of these is definitely a 1, and then I'm limited to a selection of these cells. I really thought I would have had a digit by now, but 7 minutes in, all I've managed to convince myself of is a bunch of colors. Not great. Right. I don't actually think we can solve this without taking a look at the rest of it. And I'm going to need new colors because these 4 digits are clearly going to be different, so I can use the digits 1 through to 8 from whatever is happening in here. Now, same rule applies. These 2 cells will have a parity that's different from these 2 cells. Kind of proven that already. So let's say I've not used purple, or actually I'm going to use orange, purple. Now, these 2 cells have to be the same parity. You can see we've done that to make sure that they're not touching. So, red, yellow, red, yellow, red, yellow, red, yellow. You just kind of invert them a bit. So these 2 cells have to be purple and orange, and this cell can't be orange. So already, there we go, we know some parities. This is purple, this is orange. And I know that this is even. No, don't say that. Sorry, it's just because obviously we're adding 2 of the same digit, whether it's odd or even. I was going to come up to an even sum. Right, we know that the 1 is in here. So let's just think about options. So I have 2, 3, and 4 as options in these 2 cells. And I cannot use 1 in this setup because I've used them in these colors. Now, the reason I'm sort of hesitating is nothing is stopping the arrow from, say, including another cell, basically. There's nothing in there that says, yeah. So I could be adding more than just these 2 cells. So that's not guaranteed to be even. I could have another cell in here. It doesn't include the 1, though. So keep that in mind. So let's play around with this. So minimum in here is 2. I cannot use the 1. Let's say it's a 3. So I've already got 2, 2, and 3. And I can't even do that. And the reason is, if these are 2s, if these are evens, this has to be even. So I have to add up another even digit to make this even. Did that make sense? I think it did. Essentially, these 2 parities are the same. If I'm adding another digit beyond these 2 purples, let's do this again. 2 plus some, this has to be an odd digit, 3, for me to add it, and it can't be 1, and then I'm in trouble. Why? Because 2 and 2 is 4, plus the 3 is 7, and then I would have odd and even as opposed to both even, both odd. Now the thing is, that almost doesn't matter. If I do 3 and 3, I'm already at 6, and this would have to be odd to match the parity of these 2, So I would have to add an odd digit, which can only be a 1, would have to be in here because these two cells are even. So you can see that the arrow must stop for this to work. I cannot include another cell because it breaks the parity setup. So long story short, these two cells are even. These colors are even. Therefore, this is odd. This is even. This is not a 7. And then if it's a 6, that means that this is a 2. If it's an 8, it could be a 2 or a 4. And then these cells are 1, 3, 5. Wow. This is hard work. And then in here, these two cells are the same. It can't be a double 2 with a 4 because it would break this cell. I've used both digits. My only other option is a double 4 because these two cells are the same, adding up to 8. Forcing this to be 6 with 1, 2, 3. So this is all forced in my opinion. Hopefully I've proven that sufficiently for everyone. Yeah. That this is all making sense. And therefore this is 6, 2, and then we can just fill in the same colors. There we go. And this is clearly not 5. These are all 1, 3 pairs. And then to get from the digits 1 through to 8, these cells are all 5, 7s. Now, this cell in here, again, playing in mind the parity part, these two cells are even. That can't be 8 because we're not going to add up to something that's bigger than 8. So that's the 8. That's the 4. 4, 2 plus something is going to add up to 5 or 7. Well, clearly it's the 1 and the 7. So that's entirely forced. 1, 3. Done. Well, I say done. I mean, half the grid is done. And then in here, 4 and 8, the 8 is there, the 4 is there, the 7 is here, and the 5 is there. Now, obviously, because of the 1 through to 8 setup, these cells are basically now in here, and then these cells are now in there to complete 1 through to 8 in every column and row. So this section of the grid, whatever they're made up of, is 4, 5, 7, 8. We're not going to have 7 or 8 on this cell. This cell, oh, actually, and it's odd. Of course it is. So that has to be 5, which forces this to be 7. This has to be 4 or 8. And we have our next clue. These two, I realized when I was doing the crop key dot introduction or black dot digits, there's really only two options, either a 1, 2 or a 3, 6. Every other option like 2, 4 and 4, 8 has two even digits that are adjacent. So that's just not going to, orthogonally consecutive. So that's just not going to work. Now this cell has to be odd. So that is 1 or 3. And this cell has to be even. So this is 2 or 6. And we actually don't know which one it is. But this is probably enough to give us, well, the 7 is not here, not there. That's the 7, 5, 4, 8. And then the 5 is not here. That's the 5. That's the 7. And then it looks like that's, no, hang on. The odds are here. So this is the 7. This is the 5. This is 4, 8. Clearly that's not the 8 adding up to 7. So that's the 8, 4, 8, 4, no, 8, 4, and 8. Now, I'm fairly sure this is a 1, 2 pair because we've got 1, 2, 3, 6 in here to get to 7. So this is 1, 2, this is 3, 6. We obviously know the parity. That's not an even. So that's 1, that's 2. Therefore, that's the 6, that's the 3. That 6 forces this to be the 2, the 1, the 3, the 6. And then I have everything I need to complete this now. So 6 would have to be in here with a 2, with a 1, with a 3. And then this would have to be the 6. Hang on. Sorry. 6 with a 2, with a 3, and then a 1 for the finish. Phenomenal puzzle, Mr. Moose. Phenomenal puzzle. Sir Moose, in fact. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I absolutely loved it. And let me know how you got on, because it is very different from a lot of the variants that we played around with. And with that said, thank you very much for watching and playing along. See you back soon. Bye-bye for now.